Okay, welcome to the, I believe, 93rd script. Probably going to stop around 100 for a little while, but right now I have gone far into understanding data trees. And what I've built is a little toy. It's a wire that wiggles its way through a NURBS curve between 2 points, and those points are numbered. And what I did here was, first of all, I generated a grid of points by a range that went into Python. And the Python script is in here. It's very simple. It is nested loops, X, Y, and Z. And that's it. It couldn't be much more easy than that. Import Rhino geometry is RG. I have noticed people are doing Python geometry now, but I think I'll stick with the Rhino geometry as RG or something like that, or Rhino script as RS. Basically build your point system, append your point system, and output your points. So you can do that, but that's not what I'm using, because if you take a look here, for those that know a little bit about it, this data viewer is coming up flattened, and I don't want flattened. So I'm going back, and I'm sure I could fix it in Python, but I'm not going to bother. I'm going to go in and generate a point system from a series. I'm going to move that into another point system, grafted, and move that into the third axis grafted. The reason for that is I want a point system that looks like this. I want branches to my tree. And as you see as we go through this script, these branches change what they look like from this branch to this branch to this branch and over to this branch. And in the effects of that happening, what's happening is the geometry, the number system where the points are being selected, is changing. So initially, we have all the points, and we could put a display, which I recommend doing, number display, on those points, and changing the size, let's say to 6. Now it's going to interfere with the other points, but you'll see there's numbers on every point, and they're well organized. They go 0 through 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in all these rows and columns, and you get all of this data. Then, what I'm doing is taking that information, putting it through a param viewer, tree viewer, and calling out a series of what I want removed from that tree. And so this path is what's being followed, but the tree data is being changed to look like this branch. So I'm ending up with different data. If you take a look at that, kids are just being fantastic in the background. You've got 25 items here, and as I move to here, you're going to find the influence down to 17 because I've called out 8 count with steps 1 to 7. As I change those steps, you're going to start visualizing how things are selected and removed from this list. So I can change my geometry by playing around with what is being called out of those patterns in that data. Now I haven't flattened anything yet. I'm trying not to flatten as I go through. So as we keep going, what happens to the next shift? I'll get down to 22 items again because all I'm doing, and I should probably grab my bifocals for that sake, is I am calling the index again and removing one indice 5. And that is being brought out, and I'm putting planes on every one of those surfaces. So you can see where the planes are still being affected in that series, and theirs being selected at 22 points. And we'll just pull up our planes and have a look. And there they are. We've got 22 with 5 items on each. So it's chosen 22 of the rows and picking up 5 of the items. So you really are starting to visualize, and I don't want to get too far into this because when I get too far ahead, you're losing what I actually just want to show, the numbered system as it relates to where those NURBS curves are flowing through. And I build another branch for data, and I dispatch it, and I only grab the bottom half, and at this point I choose to flatten. Because once I choose to flatten, I can make some lines. It's not really important to have done this, but I was playing around with connecting lines. But I ended up choosing my end items back into a tree of data. There's the information flattened. This line will flow directly through all of those things, you can see, and then I pipe that just to a certain level so I can visualize it. I threw in a couple of spheres to the endpoints. So where do you have control over this? Well, definitely I can control the size of the mesh ball, which isn't very exciting, but that's actually affecting the size of the display text. I can come in here and call my series out by choosing different set of count of how many I want. And you'll see how that affects the geometry, but I can also change my step that's being selected. Where is that step in between points and selecting? So if you step really high, you're going to step and get rid of most, you're going to get less and less points as you go. So this is a little fun toy. You can bend the wire around by visualizing what I'm doing. If I remove the 5 indices, then I'm shifting that on different levels because it's counting differently. That's a call index that's actually just moving out one number. You could always put a series in here, or you could add another number slider at a different value and call out 7 while you're at it with a shift. So it's kind of like playing with a shorter series. And what's happening when I do that? You're playing with the geometry. And then you can go back to this count as well, playing with what you want to remove. A count of 5, removing every second indices. And I would recommend keeping your number system on so you can see how it's being counted and counted up. If you don't flatten that last data, you're not going to end up with anything because you'll just come back to numbers. Well, you'll end up with just this little straight polyline between the points because it's basically grabbing the front set of series of planes. Let me see if I can get it all on here. Basically, you're grabbing the front set and the back set of these planes that's being selected and just drawing a line between them. So it's kind of grafting them head to head. So you probably don't want that. At some point, you're going to want to go in there and flatten a little bit of data and see what happens. And you'll change your data in a second. It just takes a heartbeat. And there you go. I've just jumbled it all up. Take off my preview. I'm back down to the points and the toy that's actually centered somewhere in this grid. So if I choose that, all those items, choose my last one selected, and then just come in and grab my point system. You can see that in that point system, these are the numbers that are selected. And I guess it would be best just take that preview and put it on. And now you're allowed all the points, the number of points being chosen, and the pipeline that goes through it. A fun little script for people that are visual, that actually have to see and control their data and start to build geometries. It's as regimented and strict as you want to make it. But right now, I want to be as playful as I would be with a wire stretched between two spheres. And that's it. And I guess I can remove this. Well, I did play with tree branch. I just can't seem to leave the data tree nodes, and I'll probably stick that out for 100 before going into getting into the vectors and starting with fields again. I'm going to move some items to Patreon after 100 scripts because I'm going to walk through some pretty intricate, longer video tutorials at that time. And, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's something that will teach you data trees by more of a hands-on and an intuitive approach. I'm doing it for the visual artist because very few of us have a lot of programming skills. Thanks very much for watching.